time to build. Thank you for joining us. I'm very excited. I've been a fan of yours from the start, and I have to say I never imagined that I would be sitting and discussing psoriasis with you. So can you please tell us what it's like to live with psoriasis and why you've been so outspoken about it?
Well, one, because nobody talks about it. That's one. So I'm a big fan of unpopular causes. I was very sick from 2010 to 2015, trying every different thing and concoction, some that aired on kind of like a I Love Lucy, you know, with the rubber suit and the hat and the, you know, grease. And, you know, my husband, of course, has a good sense of humor, and, you know, he's still around, so that's good. I don't know. I lucked out. I started making jokes, and then my manager got a call from Novartis and the National Psoriasis Foundation, and somehow I wound up involved with them, and I was going to do this photo shoot, and I was very excited. You know, photo shoot I love because, like, it's a painting. I'm a painting. And, you know, we figured out how to have everything the color of skin, and I'm thinking that's really good. And I put a really tight corset to make a line. And then as soon as I took that off, my skin was, you know, ripped off, falls off, and it was horrible. And I was really cranky the next day, and the lady looked at me, and I showed her. And the very next meeting, I was sitting in a room with other people that had psoriasis for real, not just like a little rash. And the truth is, it's not a little rash. It starts like that. And, you know, mine started with, here's some shampoo. So I figured, hey, psoriasis, eczema, it's all the same. And I, you know, was washing my hair. Everything was good until it spread and spread. And my whole entire body was covered, and except for my face. Believe it or not, I don't know. No, I lucked out. I was still working. But when I met these people and talked to them, one young woman, Melissa, said she was a ballerina and no one would lift her because they thought it was contagious. And I felt, you know, sometimes when people would say, is that contagious? But you have to understand I'm Sicilian, which could mean anything, and I'm a little spiteful. So if somebody asked me if something was contagious and I knew it wasn't, I might, you know, I might shake their hand and say, well, you know, but, you know, for her it was, she wanted that out in the open. And then they started talking to me and said because I was really famous, I would be able to speak for them. And then all of a sudden, you know, my self-importance probably got really pumped up, and I thought to myself, well, here's an opportunity for you to talk about something that's not popular and help people. So that's kind of why I'm here, and also to urge people who are ill with it to understand it's not a rash, it's an inflammatory thing. And your whole body is inflamed, and it's connected with psoriatic arthritis, which I don't have, ironically. But I am very fortunate because I found something that worked for me. What worked for me might not work for you. That's the dirty trick, because we're all so different. Everything is different on each person. It's just like when somebody says, you know, the cod liver oil works really good. And there you are with the cod liver oil and the saran wrap like an idiot at night, trying not to wreck the sheets and, and stinking to high heaven.
That was an actual suggestion, cod liver oil?
Yeah, because for somebody it actually worked. And, I found a practitioner who actually studies the diseases of the skin. And honestly, not that cosmetology isn't great. Trust me, I think it's awesome. But when you're sick, you really need somebody who specializes in diseases of the skin, not how to make you look whatever. You know, as long as you don't look like Catwoman, I'm in that realm. It's okay. But I was very lucky to start working with the National Psoriasis Foundation and Novartis. And when I did the See Me to Know campaign, which I saw on TV, and I thought to myself, hey, why aren't I in that? You know, of course, because I always think I'm so self-important. But when I actually did the campaign with them and listened to other people talk, and I know I'm talking too much. I just want the people in here that might have it to know that it's not just a rash, and look into it and research and don't give up. And that's why I wrote the video like that. They wanted me to write a song, and the people who I was with, it was important to them, so I didn't want to fail them, you know? So I wrote about hope, which is what people need. You got to give people hope. That's what's lacking sometimes. And don't give up, because you can't give up.
Thank you.
Sorry, I
no.
must have sucked up every drop.
No.
Yeah.
That's it, we're done. No, I would like to rewind, if we could.
Yeah.
Earlier this year, you joined forces with Planned Parenthood, and you released official merch, Girls Just Want to Have Fundamental Rights t-shirts, which were amazing.
Yes.
But you wrote in your memoir and have talked about how Girls Just Want to Have Fun was always meant to be political. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Okay.
Please.
It was a song written by a man, so I don't even have to say anything. If a man sings that song, you know what he's singing about, right? Okay. So I'm saying to them, what do you want me to do? Kick my dress up and do a can-can? And they said, no, think about what it could mean. It could be an anthem. So my, spiteful and activist little mind got going, because I burnt my training bra at the first demonstration at the Alice in Wonderland statue. For me, for my mother, and for my grandmother, and all the women that I saw in the generation before me who were disenfranchised, completely derailed. But then again, I'm half Sicilian, and if you know about how Sicilians think and the history of Sicily, you would understand why they always derail the women. They want the women near home. The women eventually become the free domestic help, and they become the help when you're old. And unfortunately, that's how it goes for a lot of women. So I decided that I would do something, and I thought a long time about it, and I put when it came for the lineup of girls, I said to them, and I said to Ed Griles, who was the director, and he was good enough to really be supportive, and we got every racial group of girl, mixed, Spanish, white, black, Asian, everybody, so that every little girl who looked at that video would want to join our club and understand that every young woman, older woman, every person is entitled to a joyful experience. And this past year, during the Great Women's March, all over the world, ironically, I saw young women with signs that said, girls just want to have fun, demento rights. And all the stuff that I talked about in the 80s where everybody said, come on, don't be so political. Everything's feminism. What's wrong with you? And I was like, well, if I'm not concerned about my own civil liberties, who will be? which brings me to something else. If you want an inclusive society and you want to be included, you gotta include yourself. And you have to vote. Otherwise, we're going to have the same people over and over. And they get to change the laws without you. Because 26, you're a reporter, 26% of the people voted. And you know what they voted on? They voted on being able to change the Constitution. In other words, they could get together and change our laws, our Constitution. I voted no. I think I lost.
Here in New York, yeah.
I think I lost. I think because 26% of the people showed up and gave a damn. Nobody else did. And in New York, they can fuck with the Constitution. So there you have it. You want to be included? Include yourself. And yeah, it wasn't just a fun video. I had to get past the gatekeepers, so we made it a lot of fun. And I made people laugh their ass off, while really I was speaking to a generation of young women, appealing to them. And I put my own mother in the video because I did not want, there was a big thing in the 80s that you wouldn't talk to your mother. And I thought, oh, you're not going to talk to your mother or your grandmother, huh? So what they got away with your mother and your grandmother, guess what? Be an idiot. Don't find out what they had to go through. And you'll be going through the same thing. You won't learn at all. Because how do you conquer a people? You take away their history. That's how you do it. How do you find your history? It's an oral history. You talk to your mother, your grandmother, your aunt. You find out your history. And you find out what history you want to make. It's called herstory. All right, I'm on a roll.
Cyndi.
I shouldn't have had that second cup of coffee. That was wrong. Okay.
Cyndi, I'd love to talk about Broadway, if we could. You won a Tony for Kinky Boots. You wrote a song for the new musical SpongeBob SquarePants, which I can't wait to see.
Hooked on the sponge.
You're writing the score for the new stage adaptation of Working Girl, the movie from the 80s. I'm really curious, what was the first Broadway musical you ever saw?
Oh, saw?
Yeah.
Oh, I never saw a musical until my friend took me to see Lauren Bacall in a stage adaptation of, I don't remember the name of it. She was an interior decorator. She did a movie of it, and then they made it into a musical.
But have you been like a...
Now I
do you listen to
go.
show tunes in the car?
No,
Have you
no,
always
when
been into musicals?
My mother...
Your mother.
She had, and you got to understand, when I was a baby, I was 4 or 5, musicals were pop music. So whatever was in the musical that was a hit was on the radio. In between the rock and roll, which was bubbling under. But at 4 or 5, there was my mother's music, there was my cousin's music, and that was more rock and roll, I guess. And they used to do dances together. That's how I knew the difference. And the musicals were my playtime. I was a very strange kid. I didn't hang out with a lot of people, but I did hang out by the record player, and I would listen to all the different voices, and that's how I played. I was changing my voice around. My Fair Lady, I not only wanted a room somewhere, but I was going to get to the church on time. I was Stanley Holiday walking around for a long time. He was the guy who played the dad. And I was also Rex Harrison. I was the professor. I played. That's how I played. And when I was 4, I think it was The King and I. And my grandmother came downstairs and picked the record up and just walked upstairs. We were Italian, so we all lived, mother, daughter, sister. The brother, he moved to Long Island. He was smart. But, that's what it was until I met the Beatles and the Supremes.
Oh, my goodness.
My cousin gave me a
hours.
record, Meet the Supremes, Meet the Beatles. I met them. I loved them. I was hanging out with them for a long time. That's how I learned the other part of singing.
Well, when you were just talking about how you were playful, I wanted to ask you about being a mother. I'm sure that came in handy when your son was young. He's a teenager now. How's that going for you? And
Well,
how have your experiences as a woman in the world, in the music business, influenced how you're raising a teenage son?
he's into hip hop,
Okay.
which is not exactly woman's lib. Okay. But it's not like the old hip hop. He's actually doing really well. He's writing. It's kind of like a flow with a pop hook, and he's actually talking to record companies, and he's doing really well. But it's very hard right now for a young man to learn how to be a young man. And there's a lot of like sexual harassment stuff coming up now, which has been going on since day one. Even read the Bible.
It's like presented as bombshells, but it's not very surprising.
Well, let's quote the Bible then. The walls of Jericho was starting to crumble. Just keep standing around the walls and yelling out till the whole thing falls down. And power corrupts all sometimes. I think it's very hard to be a parent. They stop writing books when they're 15, and you're like, oh, geez, now what? And, I don't give up.
You mean advice books?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the Giselle Ames books, your 3-year-old friend or enemy. That was a revelation, your friend or enemy. But I was a working mom. I still am. And my husband decided to stay home and raise our son.
Can I ask you about your husband? You've been married to David Thornton for more than 20 years.
26.
26, okay. So do you have maybe one piece of advice that you can offer people for a solid marriage? I know it's a hard one.
Don't ask me. I think you stay married, that's all. But I know that he is my best friend. He's the funniest person I know. And he's wildly creative, looks at things in ways that other people don't. It's very hard for me because, when I was a kid, I was like, I'm going to live in a house with all artists. Yeah, try it. It sucks. Because everybody's temperamental. Everybody's got their own. They look at it this way. They look at it that way. And, hey, it's really great. But then sometimes you're like, really? But, my son's an artist. My husband's an artist. I'm an artist. Even the dog is freaking temperamental. Got issues. Dog don't like helicopters. He doesn't like helicopters or airplanes. I'm not kidding.
What does he do?
Oh, he's a pug. And he's got skin problems because he's a black pug. They're the most beautiful, but his skin, he can't be in the sun because it absorbs the heat. In the cold's not so good, and his skin is harsh. You got to take care of him, and he barks at the planes and the helicopters really badly. I think maybe he was air pilot controller, airport person. I have no idea. But yeah, he has his issues, and you can't watch television or a movie that has horses or dogs or animals because that bugs him.
Wow.
And he doesn't like if it's very harsh. So, like The Hobbit and those things, that's out. Absolutely out.
Well,
I don't know. Listen, I don't know. Domestic bliss. What the heck? I don't know what that is. All I know is my family. I love my family. I love my family, and I love my mother, and my mother doesn't remember a lot, but my mother always used to make us sit down and talk forever and hear our ideas because she never had a chance to talk, because she was Italian, so you just did. and she didn't want us to just do. So now you got 3 very individual grown-ups, and our kids are very individual. So I don't know. All I know is if you love your family, you stick by them. My mom said if you come riding in on horseback, you still a family. So I don't know. I don't know what the line of tough love is. I only know that you can never give up, which brings us back to hope again.
Exactly.
Whether you're sick or whether you're unhappy about something, you got to figure out what it is and take the little things, start with the little things. Somebody told me, oh, these are really dark times. Well, you're a news person. There's a lot of people doing a lot of great things, and they're happening around us, but they're not focused. But if you look for little, it's like little bits of light, and you keep finding little bits of light, and you put them all together, it's going to get lighter. You keep focusing in on the dark, the dark, the dark. Yeah, we can change things if we band together. See, together, we can do anything. Split us apart, there you go, divide and conquer. That's how you take over civilizations. That's how you take over. Do not divide yourselves. Our diversity is our strength. You know, it's just like if I want to learn how to make an Irish stew, I'm not going to call my mother. I'm going to look for anybody else around New York City who's Irish, right? You know, you don't want Italian tasting Irish stew.
No.
If you want Asian, you know, well, they make a lot of Asian fusion, but if you're going to ask somebody, you're going to ask somebody who cooks who's Asian and likes Asian fusion. You know, we get the best food in the whole wide world here. I know, I'm looking at you, you're shaking your head. I know, I like to go uptown. My son, he only eats like soul food, which he feels is part of his music. So, you know, and I understand because all of my music, everything I ever sang, is based on African American music. And if I didn't grow up in this country, and I grew up someplace where we all looked alike, well, there'd be none of that either. And there'd be no rock and roll. And rock and roll is a mixture of like those Appalachian, Irish, Scottish people mixed in with the African people, and they all merged, and it kind of turned into rhythm and blues, and here we sit in the Mecca, the old tower.
The Old Tower Records. So, Cyndi, I unfortunately
I
have to
sucked
stop
up
you.
every bit of time. I'm so sorry.
I could listen to you all
I'm so
day.
sorry.
But we need to take some questions from the audience. Before we do that,
Absolutely.
I want to thank you for joining us, and I want to point out that your amazing suit is part of your new collection that you just launched with the Home Shopping Network.
I did because I felt like older women are pushed out of any kind of couture. This kind of covers your butt a little bit.
Oh, I
but
love it.
It makes you look better than you sometimes feel you look. And these shoes are actually comfortable, and
They
yet
look cozy.
they're
Can I feel them?
yeah. And they got cushions over here, and it's wide enough for your foot, and there's a platform so your foot don't hurt. And I realized, because I wrote it enough, the sex is in the heel. So I looked up in the history book of shoes. I went to FIT. If you want to just feel like you died and went to heaven about fashion, go to FIT library and look up anything you're interested in. There's amazing books. Anyway, so I researched, and it's a combination of like the little teacup heel and this old Schiaparelli shoe that kind of came like that. It doesn't quite do that because I wanted the woman to feel comfortable, and I have platform boots that my housekeeper says you could run in them, and they're cross between the Victorian look and the 70s doing the 90s doing the 70s, kind of like that. But
Very cool.
it's on HSN. It's for the women who, you know, it's that whole invisible thing.
Yep.
We don't have to go looking like Mother Cabrini just because you're older. You could feel elegant and funky at the same time, and it's within the price range. Nobody got hurt. It's not real fur.
Yes.
It's not real leather. Nobody got hurt. So,
Amen to that. And now I'd love to take some questions from the audience for Cyndi. Who do we have?
I think I talked him into the
Hey, Cyndi. I was just curious, would you have any interest in turning Kinky Boots into a movie so you could try to win an Oscar, thus becoming a fabled EGOT winner?
Oh, wow. There's a lot of talk about that, and there is a producer who was interested, but I have no idea where that sits right now. I am going to write some music for an animated feature that is being developed, and I keep writing, and that's the path. But yeah, it'd be nice to have an EGOT. I think that'd be pretty good for somebody who went to 4 different high schools and wound up getting a GED. I think it would be really good. Thank you. Yeah.
Next.
Hi, it's really cool to meet you and thank you for being here. So for younger people such as myself who may only know you through like Girls Just Want to Have Fun and True Colors, how would you like us to like view you as an artist with a long career, and how do you try to like engage youth people?
Well, I do a lot of different things. I don't necessarily, I guess you're right. I don't care what other people think sometimes. I only care that I'm doing it. I work with my son. I enjoy, singing on some of his stuff because I like the rhythm and that kind of thing. I like dance music. Obviously, I like electronic music from what you heard. I would think that at one point I'll sing under a fake name to actually just make modern music, because along with sexism is ageism. And as a musician, what they told us in the 80s was that our music was disposable. And I said, I didn't come this far and work my whole life to make disposable music. And angrily, I said, in 50 years, people will remember my songs, because I will not do the songs that are frivolous, mean nothing. Even when you think they mean nothing, they mean something. And I don't know. I don't know about reaching out. I only know about actually doing the work. But again, I do this thing now where I go, I'm working with my management and my team, and we make a Spotify list of new artists and young artists that we love, and mixed it with the older artists, and that becomes our Spotify list. And in that way, we reach out. And also every week we try and find a hero doing something great and make it like, a little light, So that's how I'm doing it. I don't have big answers, sorry.
And we have time for one more question.
Hey, Cyndi. So I'm a huge.
Walk me in? No, that was the
No.
other. I'm sorry. He's a shill. No.
I'm a huge fan. I grew up listening to your music. I was wondering, you said that you were performing while you had psoriasis. How hard was that for you? Did you want to just like take a break or stop? And did you ever feel like, I know you're talking about hope, but did you feel depressed or feel like you were falling into depression?
I was on tour with Cher, and I didn't want to let anybody down. And, once you're on stage, you're out of your mind. Like, I think some of the best work is when you're not conscious. But coming off, it's really difficult. I did have global amnesia because I was going to a Chinese doctor, and in the end, he said, make sure you don't sweat. And that was the first time I understood that he didn't realize I was performing. And I was taking these baths and soaking my feet. So at night I would detox without realizing it, and in the day I would detox without realizing it. So one time in the middle of the set, I didn't remember. I heard I was terrific though, okay? So there's something about it. But it did zap my strength. I'm now in the process of learning how to use my stabilization muscles, how to sit up instead of sink down so that I can, and I have to relearn how to breathe, walk, eat, you know, but I'm kind of grateful I was sick. Yeah, it was hard. It was hard because, you know, because what people say, what is it, what's the name of that show, whatever that TMZ thing. They took a picture of me on vacation and I had the flare and they were like, what is that, mosquito bites? You know, no, that's psoriasis. So, you know, you have to be able to, I have a thick skin. So, and I'm Sicilian and we're taught to keep going. And I also used to look at the post office every time I came from Queens to rehearse on 30th Street, and it said, neither rain, sleet, snow, nor gloom of night stays these couriers from the swift completion of their appointed rounds. And I kind of took it literal. Does that answer it? Okay. All right.
Thank you
I
so
gotta go.
much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank God I wasn't quiet or shy. Inside, folks, I'm shy.